Welcome back to the Gentleman's Gazette and part 2 about classic men's fragrances. If you're interested in part 1, you can check it out here, but today we'll look at 10 more fragrances to see how they've stood the test of time. Scents are deeply personal, and someone would never think about leaving the house without one, whereas others never use one in the first place. Personally, I agree with G. Bruce Boyer, who advocates that a man should have a wardrobe of fragrances so he can choose the right one for the right outfit and the right occasion. That being said, experimenting with fragrances can be quite expensive because once you open it, you can't return it. Even though there are thousands of fragrances out there, we wanted to focus specifically on classic ones that have been around for a while because there's a lot of marketing hype and marketing dollars in the game, but we wanted something that was truly classic and gentlemanly. Just like in part 1 of this series, we only considered scents that are 30 years or older. So without further ado, let's jump right in. We'll talk about the cost of the bottle, the fragrance notes, the history of the cologne, as well as our personal review. The first fragrance is 4711, or in German 4711. It is now by Meurer und Wirz, but it used to be from Mühlens. It was originally created in 1792 as an health elixir. These days, though, it's only used for external application. Like many fragrances this old, this was made for men and women. It is a classic citrus fragrance, and it doesn't have an atomizer, so you have to apply it directly to your skin. Overall, you can get this fragrance to project more if you add a spray head or if you decant it. In my experience, it's weak on longevity, but it's relatively inexpensive, so you can reapply it many times. Some people in Germany like to add it to their guest bathroom. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of that. Top notes are orange oil, peach, basil, bergamot, and definitely lemon. In a heart note, people could smell lily and melon. Personally, I smelled more of the rose and jasmine. In the base notes, you have some patchouli, vetiver, and musk, as well as oak moss and sandalwood. Some people also smell cedar. So what's our review? We had 4 people on our team test this cologne just so we get a more well-rounded review rather than just my personal opinion. So what did our team of 4 think about this cologne? Well, personally, I think it smells like the classic unisex cologne or perfume for grandparents. Maybe I'm biased because I grew up in Germany, but at the end of the day, it's old people stuff. It's great if you're in your 70s or older. Personally, I would not wear it. That being said, our team liked it more than I did, but they didn't grow up with it. It's priced at $22 for 100 milliliters, which is quite inexpensive in the fragrance world, but I would rate it at a 2 or 2.5 at most, and it's just not something I'd wear. Next up, let's look at Aramis, which was created in 1966 and is undoubtedly a very masculine scent. Aramis is a member of the Chypre fragrance family, which is built around citrus, oak moss, spices, and woods. It's considered by many to be one of the first fragrances to combine citrus notes with more masculine scents. It's also one of the few fragrances where leather is a very strong detectable note. In a top note, I can smell cinnamon, I can smell some bergamot, and something flowery. Some people call it gardenia. In a heart note, I can definitely smell some sandalwood, vetiver, and patchouli. The base notes for me are very leathery, there's some oak moss, and some people could smell amber, I couldn't. In my mind, it's definitely heavier than the 4711, but it still has that citrus note. It's a great masculine cologne, and personally, I'd rather wear it in the fall-winter season than in the spring-summer season. It's definitely a scent with a strong presence, and because of that, I think it's better suited for evening occasions, not so much for the office, because some people may just think it's too strong. To learn more about the proper office etiquette, please check out this video here. Priced at $25 for 110 milliliters, Aramis is definitely on the lower end of the fragrance scale. Our team rated it unanimously at about 3 out of 5 stars. Number 3 is D.R. Harris Classic Cologne, which was developed in London in the late 1800s in one of the oldest pharmacies there. It has been on St. James Street for over 200 years, and they hold the royal warrant from Prince Charles. It is characterized as an aromatic fougere scent with a citrus-forward note. While some people can smell some lemongrass, rosemary, and rosewater in the heart and base notes, I could just smell the lime in the top note because it's the dominant scent. In my mind, this was citrus all the way, and it smelled more like a top cleaning product to me than a high-end cologne. It's definitely a lighter, fresher, summery scent, which is great for day wear, and it's definitely a unisex. Our team really liked the fruity and spicy and citrus-forward profile. Personally, I don't want to smell like a cleaning product, so I would not wear that one. My rating is 1.5 out of 5. Our team rated it at 3.5 out of 5. Price is $60 for 100 milliliters. It is not super expensive, but somewhere in the middle. Number 4 is GOF Trumper Extract of West Indian Limes. It was created in 1880 by George Francis Trumper, who was a master barber, and the name says it all. This one is all about lime. It's one of the brand's most favorite colognes, and as the brand describes it, it is the essence of those West Indian limes. When I smell it, it's very clear, direct, limey. There's not much else there. When I smelled it for the first time, I instantly thought of a caipirinha, and because of that, it's a very beachy, summery scent. It's definitely unisex, but it's also priced at $60 for just 50 milliliters of cologne. And frankly, I was wondering if I could just put some lime oil on my skin, I would probably smell exactly the same. On our team, people liked that it was unisex, but they complained that it was actually not long-lasting. Preston and Kyle thought it was the favorite cologne in the lineup. So my rating would be just 2 out of 5 stars. Their rating would be 4 out of 5. The fifth scent is Dunhill for Men, which was created in 1934 by Alfred Dunhill, the son of the founder of Alfred Dunhill Limited, which was a well-known London luxury goods maker specializing in tobacco and leather goods. Very much in line with their brand cachet, they created a fragrance that was heavy and manly. In the top note, I can smell some lavender and nutmeg. Some people could smell geranium. I thought there was also a bit of lemon. The strongest heart notes for me were woods and the smell of a fresh cut carnation. Other people could also smell iris, rose, and jasmine. The base note was definitely leather, vetiver, and sandalwood, and there was something else. Looking through other people's notes, it seemed to be the tonka bean because the oak moss and the cedar was there, but the characteristic part was that tonka bean that just made it smell different. Priced at $46 for 100 milliliters, it's definitely somewhere in the middle. Frankly, for my first sniff, I came too close and it was just overpowering and overwhelming. At that point, I would have given it a -1 out of 5. After the initial shock, I could smell some lavender, and it made me think of a 1950s women's powder room, not a London gentleman's club. Now, when we test scents, we always smell them very up close on our skin, and I think sometimes that's not quite realistic because other people will smell you from much further away, and scents really smell differently. Because of that, I gave it more chances. I wore it on regular days and tried to experience what it felt like, and I liked it more than I initially did. I would definitely still call it an old school scent. Some people may call it dated, others may call it just serious. Overall, it's a mixed bag. So the team rated it at 2 out of 5 stars. I probably would give it a 3 out of 5 now that I've worn it a little more often. Scent number 6 is Chanel pour Monsieur. It was created in 1955 by Chanel's second chief parfumeur, Henri Robert. It was Chanel's first fragrance for men and is such a novelty. In top note, you can smell some lemon, verbena, and orange. The heart note has some ginger, cardamom, and coriander. In the base, there's definitely some cedar and oak moss. Overall, it felt like a very round, elegant scent. Personally, I like anything related to verbena or lemongrass, but this Chanel cologne wasn't overpowering. It was very elegant and not as much in your face as a GOF Trumper or a DR Harris. Smelling it, I could tell it was designed for the Parisian gentleman, not for the American cowboy. Why? Well, it's not this distinct heavy men's cologne like the Alfred Dunhill. It's just a bit more rounded, but it's also not female. I think the Chanel pour Monsieur could be worn in the evening, but also at the office. Personally, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Some people on our team hated it, others really liked it. Priced at $98 for 100 milliliters, it's definitely more in the upper echelon of men's colognes that are widely available. Number 7 is Caron pour un homme de Caron. Created in 1934, just like the Dunhill for men, this scent was one of the first ones that was specifically marketed towards men. The two founders of Caron individually liked vanilla and lavender, so they just combined those two in this scent. It was a known favorite of James Dean, and the current owner of Caron says that the formulation has never changed. The top note for me was very lavender heavy. There was maybe a bit of rosemary, some people say bergamot, but to me it was just lavender. In the heart note there was maybe a bit of sandalwood, some people say sage, but definitely a strong vanilla, and as the lavender evaporated, the vanilla was still lingering. Base notes had some musk and oak moss, and again, that's something special. I think it's a tonka bean. While some on our team called it understated, personally, it felt like an assault to my nose. At first, I smelled it too up close, and it was just strong lavender and especially the vanilla. And personally, I really dislike vanilla colognes or scents. It's just not my type of thing. It reminds me of a women's hair salon in the 1950s, and the closer you get to it, the stronger the vanilla gets. Frankly, in my mind, it's a lavender vanilla bomb, and I can see it being used for a milkshake flavor, maybe a chocolate flavor or ice cream, but not for a men's cologne. People on our team said it smelled like candy with a licorice note. In my mind, it was a straight 0 out of 5. I would never, ever wear this. Our team, on the other hand, gave it a 2 out of 5 with a caveat that they wouldn't wear anything below a 3. Even though it's just priced at $30 for 118 milliliters, this is a solid no for everyone on our team. Number 8 is Old Spice. And even though this seems to be the classic grandpa cologne in the last 50 years, it was actually invented much earlier in 1937. At the time, it was created by Charlton Inc. However, by the 1970s, Old Spice pivoted from just old school shaving more into fragrances, and so eventually it was bought by Procter & Gamble. The true original formula of Old Spice is no longer available because Procter & Gamble reformulated it in 2016 to comply with current regulations. If you grew up in the US, Old Spice is probably a scent that you're familiar with because your dad might have used it, your grandpa, and it was just a very commonplace aftershave. Because of that, many will probably associate an old school vibe with it and nostalgia. In the top notes, I could definitely smell some nutmeg, some citrusy, maybe lemon or orange, and some star anise. In the heart and base notes, people could smell all kinds of things from carnations to jasmine to vanilla. Personally, I thought it wasn't such a strong scent, so it was hard for me to pick specific scents. Not having grown up in the US, I wasn't really exposed to Old Spice, and I just know it from advertisements for cheap men's grooming products, basically. So frankly, when I smelled it, I thought it was surprisingly good. Of course, when you look at the flacon and anything else, it looks really cheap because in fact it is. $8 for 120 milliliters is hard to beat. It's definitely a more subtle scent, it won't last long, and it's not too extreme in any way, so it's kind of a crowd pleaser. In that sense, it reminded me a bit of Agua di Gio, because it is just something that most people will be okay with or somewhat like. No one will love it, no one will hate it. In my mind, Old Spice is a lot better than 4711, and I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. Everyone on our team liked it, and it made people feel very nostalgic. Number 9 is Habit Rouge from Guerlain. The brand was founded in 1828 and is now known as a more high-end skincare, cosmetics, and perfume producer. They have a rich history because they created scents for Napoleon and Queen Victoria. Habit Rouge was created in 1965 by one of the last family members in the company. It's considered by many to be an oriental woody fragrance. The top notes contain a lot of citrus, such as tangerine, lemon, lime, and orange, some bergamot. It's pleasing. The heart note, I could smell some flowers and sandalwood. Some say they could smell some vanilla in the base note, but frankly, by no means is it as strong as a Caron pour un homme. At first, I thought it was an interesting scent. It was not too much in your face, and so more pleasant to wear. Nevertheless, it was distinctly masculine, and so I thought it was a great office cologne. I also didn't think it was particularly seasonal, so it's a good year-round thing, maybe something you could bring for business travel. The team only gave it a 2 out of 5. Personally, I gave it a 3 out of 5. It's priced at $40 for 100 milliliters, which puts it somewhat in the middle. Last but not least, we looked at Paco Rabanne pour Homme. Paco Rabanne is a pseudonym for Francesco Rabaneda y Cuervo. He was a Spanish fashion designer from the Basque region who made a name for himself because of his avant-garde designs in the 1960s. Because of his success, he eventually opened a fashion house and in 1973 introduced fragrances. The scent is characterized as an aromatic fougere fragrance. Top notes include rosemary, sage, and rosewood. Heart notes have some lavender and tonka bean. In the base notes, I could smell a bit of sweetness, musk, and oak moss. Overall, it smelled very manly, mossy, and bold to me. Because of that, I'd associate it with maybe a velvet dinner jacket or something, but even then, it was too much for my nose, and I would just give it a 1 out of 5. The team, on the other hand, rated it as a 3 out of 5. If you want to go for it, pair it with sumptuous fabrics such as silk or brocade or velvet, and then you can wear it maybe during the colder months of the year. Priced at $29 for 100 milliliters. It's definitely not expensive, but again, price alone should not be an indicator of whether you should buy a cologne or not. If at all possible, maybe get a little sample or try it on your skin, because on a tester, it will just smell very different than on your personal skin. And with some sense, you just need to try them a little more often to just get an idea of whether you like it or not. So out of all the fragrances, our favorites were probably the Chanel pour Monsieur, surprisingly Old Spice, and then GOF Trumper's West Indian Lime. So in today's video, I'm wearing a 3-piece suit with a double-breasted waistcoat, and I felt like the Chanel Monsieur or maybe the Old Spice could have both worked with it. It's a grayish brown with kind of a very faint orange stripe, which is somewhat vintage inspired. I'm picking up the orange tones of the suit in this pale peach dress shirt with French cuffs and a very wide open cut collar. In order to accommodate such a collar, you need a very big tie knot. I went for a half Windsor because I'm not a fan of the full Windsor. The tie is a jacket woven silk printed with a diamond pattern in turquoise and orange, picking up the color of the stripe on the outside, but also the lining on the inside. It's from Fort Belvedere, and you can find it in our shop, just like my pocket square, which is wool silk and orange with some paisley patterns on it. Because of the warm tones in the outfit, I went with a gold pair of monkey fist knot cufflinks, also from Fort Belvedere, and I tied together the outfit with a pair of burgundy shoes by Mermin. And with the socks, I could have gone with something shadow stripe, but I kept it a bit more muted with just a pair of gray socks with clocks on the side that have red and white that pick up the rest of the color in the outfit. Last but not least, I have a little pinky ring with a bloodstone that is greenish and red, which picks up the color of the tie and brings it all together.